How are you doing, everybody? Welcome back into the SFS channel. My name is Gavin, and in this episode, we're going to be talking through some sell receivers for Week 11 fantasy football. These are going to be guys that I think outdid themselves in Week 10, and I'm looking to move off of here if the opportunity presents itself, and you can find yourself a decent trade. Maybe you toss this guy in a package, or you're able to sell him straight up for something else that helps your lineups. Whatever the case might be, we're looking to move on here and find some better opportunities heading into Week 11, and really the stretch of this fantasy season. We are now past the halfway marker. We're getting close to the trade deadline, and every move becomes more important from here on out. So, as always, if you guys are new around here, feel free to smash that subscribe button. We're constantly growing here at SFS and looking to help more of you guys out with your fantasy teams this season. It's not too late. We can do a lot of stuff to help you guys out. And of course, as always, we're looking to interact with you guys in the comment section as well if you have any questions for me. So, feel free to put that stuff on down there, and let's jump into today's episode. Just a quick heads up, we're recording this on Monday evening, just a couple of hours before Monday Night Football, so we don't have information yet from that game. This is coming your way on Tuesday morning, and of course, with that comes the fact we're talking Allen Robinson to start today's episode. So, essentially, what I was getting at here is that I don't have any specific injury diagnosis for you on Cooper Kupp right now, but the reason we're selling Allen Robinson, despite the fact that his production has not been great this season, is because I believe this Cooper Kupp injury gives a great deal of momentum to Allen Robinson owners in terms of what they're able to fetch for him on the open market because of A-Rob's theoretical raise in value, usage, and overall target share in this offense without Kupp potentially out there for who knows how long. Again, we do not have an official injury diagnosis. So for me, losing Cooper Kupp is obviously a huge deal. It impacts fantasy owners across the entirety of your league, from every position to Tyler Higbee, to Cam Akers, to Darrell Henderson owners, to A-Rob owners, Van Jefferson owners, whatever the case might be, Matt Stafford owners. This has a huge negative impact on their stock and value in this offense. Now, the surface level positive case you could make for a guy like Allen Robinson here is that 11.6 targets per game have been vacated potentially again for a multi-week stretch if Cooper Kupp was to miss time here. So basically what I'm doing here is taking this injury, trying to spin it into a positive for A-Rob, push that volume outward to someone else in your league, and hope that someone desperately needs a receiver and thinks that A-Rob can turn around the year. Now, this is still not going to net you a super high quality trade piece or asset for your lineups, and maybe you're in a situation where you are desperate at wide receiver and wanting to stay put here, but I do think this is a situation where we've got a 9-game sample size here of Allen Robinson continually struggling, not producing consistent numbers, and we know what he is at this point, and I think that could change slightly, and maybe he gets to a low-end flex to wide receiver 3 level player, but that hasn't been the case throughout this entire season. So just kind of the things I'm thinking about here for Allen Robinson in Week 11. Gabe Davis, I'm going to continue to sell him after these big games. I went through and looked at some of his consistency and statistical production, and really consistency is a lack thereof, but he's played 8 games this year, and what's important to me in those 8 games, the sample size that he has 4 games in which he has scored 14 points or more. He has 4 games where he has scored under 5 points. That is a perfectly dead even 50-50 split of lineup-worthy numbers versus not producing lineup-worthy numbers. And that under 5-point thing here, that stat that I pulled for you guys, this is for half PPR scoring, those levels of non-production are killer. They will derail your week if you have just one other bad part in your fantasy lineup during a playoff stretch run where you need your team to be performing at peak levels here. He could very well go out there and win one of your matchups for you, but the coin flip situation here could be costly, and if he happens to go 1-3 in your 3-week playoff period, that is devastating to have to overcome that multiple times here. For Gabe Davis, I went and looked at the numbers as well and took a peek at, if he has a down performance, what is his next game looking like? I noticed that after those good games or poor games, he has only had a back-to-back 14-plus point game one time this season. So he's basically alternating and going every other in terms of the way that production is coming about. So it's kind of a tough pattern to predict here, and not something that I really want to be overly leveraged into here in numerous leagues. Maybe you hold on to him in one of your leagues. That's fine. He's, of course, a high ceiling player, a really talented playmaker, but at the end of the day, he had a season high 9 targets this week, and that's just not been something that you've seen on a consistent level week in and week out, is volume and opportunity opportunities heading his direction. So I would use this as a means to an end here to get off of him and potentially target someone a bit more consistent. It all depends how you want to play your lineup out the rest of the season and the role he has in your fantasy lineup. If he's your wide receiver 2, that's a huge problem. Maybe you can survive if he's your wide receiver 3 or flex option, or maybe you've got a multi-flex league. But at the end of the day, for me, I do see some pretty troubling warning signs here. Drake London, this is just a clear-cut, simple solution here. He had himself a nice production game, hit the double-digit marker, 11.5 points in half PPR scoring. Get off of him. Atlanta's offense, Marcus Mariota, their scheme, their structure right now, it's a fantasy football pass-catching liability. They don't do any favors to their pass catchers for this team, and the fact that he had 38 yards and a touchdown on 5 receptions, 6 targets, it's good enough for me to move off of him. Again, the talent is there. The player is there to be positioned to be an alpha receiver for this offense, which he is, but there just isn't enough volume. Marcus Mariota is not consistently throwing the ball enough times per game to get the job done, and Drake London just isn't getting enough of, he would have to have a nasty 40+% target share if we were really going to look at him as a serious weekly lineup play. So find the guy in your league that thinks it's the Drake London breakout. Find the guy that you can sell this to and make a pitch for why Drake will continue to get better down the stretch of this season, which I think, unless there's a quarterback change or an overall philosophical adjustment and shift for the way they play football, but as long as Mariota's the quarterback there, that's not something I'm expecting to be the case. Move off of him and get on to someone else that can help your team. He's probably most useful in a package deal situation because it is going to be hard to sell him for someone straight up. Courtland Sutton here, Denver Broncos wide receiver. So Jerry Jeudy goes out in the early, I believe it was the first quarter actually, against Tennessee. And in his absence, Courtland Sutton went out there, had 11 targets, 6 receptions for 66 yards. Still not fantastic numbers. He actually only had 9 fantasy points in half PPR scoring. But I'm looking to take advantage of this. Use that, rebounded target game. He's been having down production in his overall, opportunities as of late. Use that turnaround game, the 11 targets, as a selling point here, and try as your best to sell this Denver Broncos offense. It is no easy task, but Courtland is someone I'm looking to move off of here. Jerry Jeudy's ankle sounds like it came back fairly positive. He's considered day-to-day. I'm pretty sure he'll probably miss this week's game. Just the trend we're seeing with ankle injuries this year is that the week of sustaining the injury, you're more than likely to not be a participant in the next week's game. So for Courtland Sutton, he could be having a wide receiver 1 week this week in terms of just his overall dependency that Russell Wilson may place upon him in this week's matchup. Whatever the case might be, I would definitely look to move off of him here and see if you can use him in a package deal to acquire someone from our buy low wide receivers list this week. And then finally, Brandon Aiyuk. I'm just having a hard time buying in here. I know that there's a lot of, and this is honestly a fairly unpopular opinion, I think that a lot in the fantasy community are fairly optimistic on Aiyuk. They think that he has taken over the wide receiver 1 lead for San Francisco's skill position room, and I'm just not there yet. They have a good playoff schedule, so if you really want to hold here, if he's your flex or, again, a multi-flex league type player, go for it. Be my guest. Take the chance on him. Again, that schedule is fairly good, but I just see him as the third pass-catching option in a very crowded room of playmakers that at the end of the day just kind of cannibalize each other. I think that at the end of the day, there are a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. Kyle Shanahan couldn't give a rat's ass about fantasy football, and he's just going to spread the ball around to his playmakers and try and make explosive plays happen after the catch. So is Aiyuk super talented? Hell yeah, he is. He's an awesome player. His routes are fantastic. I had a lot of fun watching him on Sunday Night Football, but at the end of the day, he's on a hot streak right now. He's had 4 straight 80-plus yard games. Had he not fumbled, he would have had 4 straight 10-plus point games in half PPR. That hot streak will inevitably come to an end here, and I think that as we see, and I actually did point to him being the third best playmaker in this offense. I think at this point for fantasy, he has surpassed George Kittle. So it's kind of Debo and CMC at this point. But aside from Christian McCaffrey, we're seeing how Debo's value is getting eaten up right now. We're seeing how George Kittle continues to be inconsistent. Aiyuk is the hot hand right now. He's the guy getting the football. He's the guy making plays. But I just don't trust the situation to pan out the way that I think a lot are right now. And I'm just a bit more skeptical on that than consensus is right now. So again, if you're skeptical to do this, that's fine, whatever. Just sharing my thoughts and feelings on the San Francisco offensive situation, and I'd be looking to make a move, looking to potentially pivot elsewhere to a guy that has a more clear-cut path to work in a respectable offense. So there you have it. To recap, Drake London, Gabriel Davis, Allen Robinson selling high on that Cooper Kupp injury. Courtland Sutton, and then Brandon Aiyuk here, receivers I'm looking to move off of. This is one of the weirdest weeks this season. If you go on and look at the top 30 wide receiver producers for this week, there are a lot of names on there that are just like not even relatively expected to be in the top 30 scoring category, from guys like Westbrook-Ikine, and you've got your DeAndre Carters of the world. I believe Kaderil Hodge was a top 30 fantasy receiver this week. Drake London was this week as well. Not nearly as crazy as those other guys, but like I would say a good half of them were names that just were not expected to be up there. So really interesting stuff, just showing the variance of fantasy football in a given week and how different game plans can shift the player's success from one week to another. But that's why we play here. That's why we have fun and talk through this stuff every week. It's a good time. And of course, we love playing fantasy football. So as always, you guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new around here, and let me know your questions down in the comment section below. I'm happy to answer as many of those as I can. And of course, the Discord server is always popping as well. You can jump in there. I've been spending a lot more time in there recently answering questions than I have been in the comment section. So I apologize to those of you in the comments, but if you do want to get involved with that Discord server, check that out. The link is in the description of today's video. And of course, it is a free service. So go check that stuff out. And I'll see you guys there. We've got 3 other trade episodes out today. I'll see you in one of those episodes. Peace out.